I'm Will Satterfield. I'm the Bureau of Workers' Comp's Office of Safety and Hygiene rep for the Safety Council. Now for a little bit of a safety topic before we dive into our speakers. Ergonomics. Remember, we're trying to enhance workers' well-being, productivity, prevent musculoskeletal disorders, repetitive motion, that type of thing. As you can see from little pie chart here, overexertion, repetitive, those account for 24% of injuries, which is the biggest slice of the pie. So continues to be a big issue. And OSHA doesn't have a standard on ergonomics. They tried to put one out 25 or more years ago, and it was so hotly legally contested that they had to withdraw it. But they can still cite you using the general duty clause, because we know that these types of injuries occur. We know what causes them. So the general duty clause that they use says employers shall provide a workplace free of recognized safety and health hazards. So we know it, so they can still get you for it. So it's in your best interest to take care of it. So if you guys need any help, feel free to call me. You can also use the QR code there as well. So that is it for me. And introduce our speakers. Today we have Matt Lindsay, Elizabeth Baxter, and Laura Dent, all from the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. And they're going to have an interactive session with us on the rideshare program, air quality awareness program, and the roles they play, and I guess we all play, in reducing carbon emissions and improving air quality in the region. So, guys.
I am Matt, that's Elizabeth, and that's Laura, and I'm going to start off with a little bit of an introduction about the organization we work for, which is the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Some of you may be familiar with us, and some of you may not. I am not going to read all of this to you. Forgot my notes. But this is sort of the standard language we describe ourselves, in some of our publications and written materials. I can summarize it as this. MVRPC is a voluntary association of member governments and some other types of organizations. It is a forum where these local governments come together to address and sometimes solve issues that are bigger than their own boundaries. Our bread and butter, our main work is funding transportation, is related to transportation planning and funding in across our region, which we define broadly to include not only highways and major roads, but also transit services, human services transportation, like for the disabled and for the elderly, bicycle and pedestrian planning, and also rideshare services, which Laura Dent is going to talk a lot more about with you later. This is our service area map. Our service areas depend upon what topic you're talking about. So our core transportation functions apply to those green county. We do similar transportation work for our rural counties, which are in gold. And then all of those plus the pink counties are the economic development district. And then our rideshare and our water quality work, they mix and match different counties as well as we deliver services to support our 97 different member jurisdictions and organizations across the region. So this is our agenda for today, with a focus on our climate planning work that we've been doing. A little bit of background on our climate planning. About a year and a half ago, MVRPC worked with a coalition of member jurisdictions, particularly Dayton and Kettering, but also the Dayton Development Coalition and Greene County Regional Planning and Miami County Department of Economic Development, to apply for, and we actually were able to receive a $1 million planning grant from US EPA as part of the Inflation Reduction Act for doing climate planning for our region. So this was a first for our region. There really hasn't been, while a couple of jurisdictions, City of Dayton, Village of Yellow Springs, had been doing some climate planning work, there really hadn't been a regional conversation around climate and climate planning for our region prior to that. So we were excited to get that grant and begin that work back well, now about a year ago when we really got started. So I'm going to discuss with you what we found in terms of our greenhouse gas inventory that we did as the first part of that work, and then discuss very briefly and without a lot of detail about what the Inflation Reduction Act has in terms of incentives for businesses and individuals for doing clean energy work projects. Elizabeth is going to talk a little bit about the other side of that coin, which is mitigation and resilience, the resilience side. And then we have a focus group activity. We're going to divide you into 3 groups and ask you some questions about how your businesses are thinking about clean energy and projects that will reduce your carbon footprint, for instance. And then we'll finish up with Laura talking about the air quality and rideshare programs which support businesses and individuals and their participation in these kinds of things. So let me go right into the greenhouse gas inventory overview. So MVRPC's Board of Directors adopted the Priority Climate Action Plan back in February. I may slip and call it the PCAP every once in a while. This was the first regional climate plan for the Miami Valley. It included the first ever regional greenhouse gas inventory for our region and suggested projects for reducing climate pollution from some of the largest sources in our region. This graphic lists some of the projects that we were interested in: cleaning up, electrifying and making transportation more efficient. That's really our wheelhouse at MVRPC, but also thinking about reducing the emissions that come from the generation of electricity and also the emissions that come from our relatively inefficient buildings across the region. There's also some additional things around organic waste and active transportation. So this is the region level emissions that from inventory broken out by sector. In total, 11 million metric tons of CO2 or CO2 equivalent are emitted from our region every year. This is based on the base year of 2021. That was the year that we modeled. And highlighted here are the 3 largest sources of emissions. And these are really not surprising when you think about it, and they're not unique to the Miami Valley. It's really very common across Ohio and the nation for these to be the big sources. So that is electricity generation, which is this first one here. Nearly half of our emissions. Electricity generation is particularly carbon intensive or dirty here in Ohio. Transportation, that's that middle one. So this is cars, trucks, buses, all across our region. And then inefficient buildings. So it's basically related to natural gas combustion right here. We also have these boards up here. One of them reproduces that chart for you, but also talks about with deeper looks at the transportation and building efficiency issues across our region. Those 3 main sources are very typical of Ohio, very typical of the nation. So as we continue our climate planning process going forward, this is sort of the existing conditions review. Where do we stand? We need to think about, we are looking for approaches to reduce these emissions, which is a big task, right? Those things, those are embedded in the way we live our lives. This is about where we live and where we work and the energy used when we're there and the energy we use getting between them. It's everything. So it's a big task. There are known technologies that can solve all of these problems or can help approach all of these problems. So, you know, I don't agree with those who say we can't solve it, because we can, and I don't agree with those who say it's easy to solve it, because it's not. There's a lot of embedded ways in which we live our lives that are going to need to be looked at and reviewed and updated. So, fortunately, there is a strategy, a national strategy already in place to get the country as a whole at least halfway to our goals. And that is the Inflation Reduction Act. These 2 recent laws, the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure IIJA, made unprecedented amounts of federal funding available to help individuals, governments, industry, and even nonprofits respond to and mitigate climate change. There's a massive investment in local and federal initiatives that support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, increased energy security, sustainability, and resilient climate-ready community development. So the objectives of these laws are better transportation infrastructure, power systems for clean energy, expand broadband internet access, access clean drinking water, make public infrastructure and homes more resilient to climate impacts, strengthens freight and supply chains, and clean up legacy pollution sites. The IRA and the bipartisan infrastructure law, they're designed to work in tandem so that local governments, local businesses can pair and leverage funding to implement climate actions and other community goals. Now, this image was developed by the C40 organization to show the sources of funds and the potential recipients. And you can see that there are some funds that flow directly to individuals and businesses, a lot of funds. These funds take the form of tax credits or rebates for clean energy and clean energy efficiency improvements. So there's a lot of specific incentives for businesses. There are multiple opportunities for businesses. Eligible energy efficiency projects include lighting, heating, ventilation, hot water systems, building envelope improvements, but also electrifying your company's fleets, vehicle charging and fueling stations for those new fleets, geothermal heat pumps, and doing solar projects on your buildings, all of which are eligible for up to a 30% tax credit. And the market is responding. The IRS reported in its first year of eligibility, over 2.3 million households in the country claimed over $8 billion in tax credits, according to the Internal Revenue Service. So 2.1 billion specifically for residential energy efficiency credits. So if you or your colleagues are in the HVAC or home improvement business, this is something they need to know about, because this is something that their customers might want to take advantage of and build their businesses. And this energy transition is happening all around the world. The growth of solar energy, electric vehicles, and battery cells have consistently outpaced expert forecasts as people, businesses, and governments adopt clean energy technology faster than expected. So there's a lot of good news here about how we can adopt energy technologies that will reduce our carbon or climate pollution. So as you can see here, global energy investment is set to exceed over $3 trillion for the first time in 2024. So I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth now to talk about, beyond the planning work we're doing on reducing emissions, how we're helping our communities be more resilient.
So my name is Elizabeth Baxter. I am the Resiliency Planning Manager for the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. And my work started with the agency in helping coordinate the long-term recovery efforts from the 2019 Memorial Day tornadoes. We were focusing on helping our jurisdictions recover from that disaster, that natural disaster that occurred. And since we have pretty much wrapped up that recovery, my work has transitioned into more of a resiliency focus as opposed to that long-term recovery. And so, as you know, we have been seeing much more extreme weather events occur within our communities and across the nation. And so having a good preparedness plan is very, very crucial to our communities incorporating that resiliency into their residents' lives and recovering faster from natural threats and hazards. However, we cannot just rely on a good disaster management plan or emergency preparedness plan. We do have to incorporate some of those mitigation efforts along with that preparedness to actually ensure our communities are resilient and stronger against future natural threats and hazards, And that goes along with some of the work that Matt has been talking about and what Lara will be talking about with her air quality work. What I have been doing, as well as supporting Matt in some of the planning efforts for the climate pollution reduction work that he has been doing, I have been working with consultant support to develop an interactive toolkit that is going to help our members, which are primarily public jurisdictions, identify what is best for their communities to protect their assets and their residents moving forward. And so this tool will not only help our communities understand where their vulnerabilities lie within their actual geographic jurisdictions, but it's also going to help them identify actions they can actually put into place and implement to protect those assets they have identified as vulnerable. So along with the preparedness effort, this tool is going to also incorporate an assessment, if you will. And this assessment is really going to focus on the environmental component and the transportation component of how communities are incorporating resiliency into their own work. And this is not necessarily an assessment that will give our members a grade, if you will, but it will help them identify areas where they are incorporating resiliency that they feel is strong, or where they feel that they can beef up that effort and protect a few more of their assets related to those two topics, environment and transportation. And so we are currently building out that model, that interactive tool, with our consultant, which we're going through test phase right now with a lot of our members, and that is expected to be complete in December of this year, 2024, and we will have a full rollout to the larger region beginning in January of 2025. So that's a little bit about how MVRPC is supporting not only our mitigation efforts, but also how we're supporting our region and member communities with preparedness planning. And in this tiny little graphic that I have up here, those are really what the contents are of our resiliency toolkit. We heard from our members, they didn't want a plan, actually. They wanted a tool, an interactive tool, to help them plan for what was best for their communities. So with that, we are really excited about this project, and hopefully you can see more, hear more in 2025 when we roll this out.
As Matt mentioned, Matt's programs and Elizabeth's programs are more the backbones of what is happening, future looks at ways we can reduce climate pollution. I am the Director of Marketing and Public Outreach with Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, Laura Dent. If you need to get in touch with me, please email me about anything that you see here. But I am part of our team that is promoting our programs, our air quality awareness program and our rideshare program. So these programs that we have are part of our long-range transportation plan to promote actions to reduce traffic congestion and air pollution through those transportation alternatives. So the funding for these programs are part of the congestion mitigation air quality improvement program. So everything that we do is focused on how can we have our residents, community members, business leaders think differently about their transportation mode choices to help us reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality. So you may or may not have seen our air quality alerts that are issued when we are projected to have high air pollution in the region. So the air quality awareness program is here for information that promotes those actions, but also if and when we are seeing elevated air pollution, we issue air quality alerts with the Regional Air Pollution Control Agency. Last year, we saw those Canadian wildfire smokes come down to our region and impact our air pollution significantly. You could literally see it, which is not something you can typically do. So we had our first ever statewide air quality alert activated by Ohio EPA. We had 9 air quality alerts in 1 month, which is much more for our region. So just giving you an example of what that reading looked like last year for those wildfire. So how are residents notified of those air quality alerts? MVRPC has a list of actions that we take. We do press releases, we call the newsrooms. I saw Key Ads was a sponsor of our session today. Key Ads is one of our partners who flips that billboard. He's really great about turning those billboards on to let residents know, hey, we've got an air quality alert day coming up. We do newspapers, we do digital ads, social media posts. We also partner with the National Weather Service Wilmington. They are the ones who send out that alert on their website that gets picked up for all the different weather apps that you have. So for the air quality awareness program, What does that mean to you? If you have a business that wants to be notified when that air quality alert happens, if you have a specific interest in this information, or you are working towards actions that can reduce air pollution, I am happy to get information to you, do webinar sessions, etc. for you. I've got a brochure, looks like a bunch of people picked up those brochures that have those actions that you can take. And I'll highlight a couple of those too, because I always like to take advantage of opportunities to teach people what they could do to reduce those air pollution in the region. One that I always encourage is waiting until the evening hours to refuel your vehicle can make an impact on those gasoline emissions mixing with sunlight and creating more smog. So if you've got plenty of gas to get you around for the day, you don't really need to stop. Wait until the evening hours when it's starting to cool off and that sun's going down. Mowing your lawn, using that yard equipment in the later evening hours or in the early morning before the sun really intensifies for summertime. It's also a great way to stay out of the heat while you're doing that yard work. So those little actions that you can take to adjust. You might not be able to carpool to work, but maybe you could take that action and adopt that action. In addition to that, any of the information that you want to distribute to your businesses, maybe your business specifically has a community of people who would utilize your services who may be an impacted population for air pollution, whether they have asthma, breathing problems, older adults, etc. Here's a couple of our partners. City of Trotwood always shares our air quality alerts on their socials, so we would encourage you to do that as well, just to help distribute that information. So in addition to that, as I said, I took this opportunity to really talk to business owners here. Our rideshare program is a partner with our air quality program. The rideshare program specifically focuses on those sustainable commute options that are available here in the region and encourages businesses, commuters in the region to look differently about how they get to work. Whether it be forming a carpool, forming a van pool, bike pools are a thing too if you want to bike together, taking transit, or just biking to work by yourself. Our website is a free resource for those who are interested in forming a carpool but maybe don't have that network of friends and family who could match their commute and they're looking for others. They can go on our website, miamivalleyrideshare.org, register for free, and find others to commute together. So you may not even know or be aware that the person who is in your next apartment lives 2 blocks from you, but you get matched on this network. You can send a message and say, hey, I'm interested in forming a carpool. Could we do Mondays and Wednesdays? Really work through what that scenario looks like for you to save money, reduce air pollution, and reduce that traffic congestion. So I have a couple slides here of the registration, what that looks like. Home, work address, those are not given out to the person that you match with, just general block look for them. You get a dashboard with all of the options that match it. You can track your trips that you have over there. This is kind of what your dashboard looks like. So for example, it shows you how much it costs you and how much CO2 emissions you make for just driving by yourself versus the list of carpools. So my example here, I match with somebody named Fiona, I match with somebody named Laura, I match with someone named Val. I can send them a message directly on this platform to form a carpool. Now, MVRPC's rideshare program and air quality awareness program supports businesses here in the region. So if you are interested and your business has a want or need to set up your own network to have your team match with each other, I'm going to say Miami Valley Gaming might be an interesting one where like you've got third shift workers who might match with other third shift workers to be able to swing through and pick them up. You've got second shift, et cetera. You could set up a network just for your campus and have just your team match with other team members. This is also a great workforce development tool because maybe you've got a pocket neighborhood that you see a lot of staff coming from. You form that carpool and then you promote in that neighborhood, hey, if you're interested in having a job here, we already have carpools in this region, we have van pools in this region. Why don't you join them if you have transportation barriers or if you want to look to save money and carpool together and join our team? So really the list of options here with our program, this is free, this is a free resource in the community, and I'm happy to talk through any scenarios that you have that could help your staff carpool together, bike or walk or take transit. These custom networks, here's an example really quick of my dummy Sinclair Community College. You see how many members you have. You can actually have your team track all of their trips there. So if you've got green initiatives that you've set for goals and you want to track how your staff is doing as far as how many bike trips they're taking, walking, etc., you can calculate all that information here on our platform. Again, free to get set up. I train you. We figure out what works best for you. And then again, as I mentioned, you can see those heat maps that are available for your team. This is a much broader picture of it, but if you've got that one campus location, you can zoom in on those heat maps and really find out where your team is coming from. And then again, logging your trips so you can keep track of what you're doing and give your team incentives. So my statistics here, I was carpooling for a very long time. I also did some telecommuting where I got to work from home for a bit of time. You can run contests on our website. You can track all of these impacts and give points for different incentives there. So that is our presentation today. As I mentioned before, please reach out if you've heard something that you're interested in and want some more information, details. We're happy to kind of talk through specifics. If you want me to come and do a presentation to your team about the rideshare program and options there, if you want custom screen for your break room, etc. Jill, I have a newsletter feature that I'm doing for her newsletter coming up about our agency. So if you have something like that where you need content about any of this, I mean, I'm sure Matt and Elizabeth would contribute to that as well. Of anything that you need, please let us know.